accelerate this process of replacing these cars. Thank you.
Both the Chief of Police, Kathy Lanier, and our Transportation Director, Gabe Klein, are available to answer questions. There are minimal road closures at this time. We're going to turn it over now to our last speakers, both NTSB, represented by Deborah Hirschman, and then she is supported by the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Mr. Joe Persicini. As I stated before, it is the District of Columbia government's position that the rescue and recovery is now complete. The scene has been processed as much as needed by the local law enforcement, and will now turn over the investigation in full to the National Transportation Safety Board, and we will support them in their investigation. Ms. Hirschman? Mr. Persicini?
Good afternoon. I'd like to once again express our condolences on behalf of the Safety Board to all of those who have lost loved ones in this tragic accident, and send out our prayers for those who remain hospitalized for their speedy recovery. I'd like to introduce someone to you that I'm accompanied by this afternoon that you have not yet met. His name is Mr. Ed Dobranetsky, and he's our investigator in charge of the 19 NTSB personnel that are now on scene working to determine the probable cause of this accident so that we can prevent something like this from occurring in the future. This morning we held our organizational meeting in which we established parties to our accident investigation, and those parties are Metro or WMATA, the TALK or the Tri-State Oversight Committee, which has oversight responsibilities for Metro, and the Federal Transit Administration, which is the federal entity that provides funding for transit operations. We are also assisted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and we very much appreciate the support and the cooperation that we've had while on scene. We very much appreciate the Transit Police, the Metropolitan Police, and DC Fire and Rescue. We could not do our jobs without these professionals who paved the way. The first 12 to 24 hours of this accident investigation belonged to them, and they did a great job helping us get access to the scene and taking care of some of the things that needed to be done before we could get into do our work. We've had a number of teams that have been out working today, collecting evidence, documenting the scene, and conducting interviews. I'd like to provide a brief summary of some of those groups and the work that they've done. First, our track group. They are working very closely with the FBI's ERT team. They're doing a lot of GPS documentation, total station, and exact locations of the track, the equipment, how that equipment came to rest, the orientation of the equipment, and damage to that equipment. They started at the Fort Totten station and have worked their way back. This will give us a very good outline of what the accident scene looked like. We've been very meticulous to make sure that we've documented at each step of the way as the emergency responders have had to go in and disturb the accident scene, to cut people out, that we have worked with the FBI very closely to document all of that so we can make sure we know what the scene looked like before it was involved in the response and recovery operations. The derailment or the collision occurred in a curve. It's a 1 degree and 15-minute curve, and it is not straight track. I know that there have been some reports in the press about that. It is a curve, and we're working to document all of that, and we will be conducting some testing that will help us perform some sight and stopping distance, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. The track speed is restricted in this stretch of track to 59 miles per hour, and we are working now to determine the exact point of derailment. This is a challenge because the two trains were engaged. It's possible that the collision might have pushed the trains forward, and so with the evidence on scene, once we're able to remove the trains and the cars and move them out of there and look at any of the witness marks or evidence we could see on the track or in the structure surrounding the track, that might help us determine where the exact collision took place. We know that earlier this month, There was maintenance performed on the train control system between the New Hampshire Avenue overpass and the Fort Totten station. Our team is working very hard to preserve records and collect perishable evidence, and so we're working to gather all of those maintenance records right now, and we'll be reviewing those as the accident proceeds. The majority of our team has actually been out on scene putting the information together, the evidence, documenting the train, and looking at the equipment. We will need time to go through those records. In the operation of the train, they did some documentation of some of the control surfaces that are inside the operator's cab. They identified the master controller was in the auto store position. The train was in automatic train operation in that there's a dial that was dialed to ATO, and the ATP, or automatic train protection switch, it's a toggle switch, that was in the on position. There have been a lot of questions in the last 24 hours since we arrived whether this train was in automatic mode or in manual mode. We advised you that Metro operates in automatic mode during rush hour, so we would have expected to see this train operating in automatic mode. That information, those three pieces of information that I provided to you, that toggle switch, that dial, and that master controller, confirmed to us that that train was in automatic mode at the time of this accident. They've also been looking at braking issues. I know that that issue has been raised by some in the press. They found in the operator's control area that the mushroom, the emergency brakes, the emergency mushroom was found in a depressed condition, that it was pushed in. Now we recognize that many of these things, these toggle switches or the mushroom, some of these could have been disturbed in the accident scenario or in the removal operations. That's why we're looking to see confirming information or evidence. Those three pieces that told us that it was in ATO. So with respect to the mushroom, it was found in a depressed position. Our structures and our team looking at the train looked at the wheels and at the brakes, and they identified bluing of the brake rotors, and this is consistent with an emergency braking application. And so we've identified that there's potential emergency braking application and that the emergency mushroom was depressed. Those are two factual pieces of information that we can share with you now. Their operation in Metro's Operations Center about the striking trains operator. This is train 112 or train 112. The original hire date, the operator was hired as a bus driver. They started training to be a train operator in January of '09. They completed training and began working as a train operator in March of '09. The operator went on duty at 4 p.m. on the day of the accident. They cushioned or deadheaded from Brentwood, where they checked in when they went on duty, to Glenmont, and when they reached Glenmont, they took operation or control of train 112.